This episode may contain stories of domestic violence. Please be advised. Welcome to the Sage Advice Podcast, where each week we sit down with people just like you who have left abusive relationships and found healing. Don't forget to check out our website, sage.community, because together we can survive abuse with grace and empathy. Now sit back and get comfortable. The Sage Advice Podcast starts right now. Hey everyone, it's Erin from Sage. Welcome to this week's podcast. Today we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to have our very first group discussion. And I've invited back Eva and Kay to join us because they were really excited to talk to each other. And we decided to focus our conversation around children and how to navigate an abusive relationship when children are involved and present. And eventually we get to talk about moving on to new relationships in your life. Bear with us as this is the very first group discussion that we had, but I'm excited to see what you think. And so here is part one of the group discussion between Eva, Kay, and myself. Here we go. Hey everyone, welcome to this week's episode of the Sage Advice Podcast. Don't forget to check us out on our website at sage.community and follow us on social media at Our Sage Community. So today we have two familiar voices back with us. Eva and Kay are joining us, and they liked each other so much that they wanted to come on the show together to talk about some more hard-hitting topics. And so today we're going to focus on a lot of things, but first we're going to start off talking about a big issue, which is how do you deal with kids? How do you deal with it when your kids are witnesses to the abusive behavior and the aftermath when, your significant other leaves the situation, and sometimes they don't leave it entirely. I don't have kids, and so I am just going to hand it over to either one of you who wants to start with your opinion. So what do you do when you have kids in this situation?
Well, I tell you, it makes it a lot harder. And my kids have seen a lot at their young age, and it's really sad. But at the same time, because of their existence, really helped me to escape the situation that I was in, because I no longer had just me to protect. And then, I knew when these outbursts had gotten worse and worse, and they were horrible, and in front of the kids, and it never, in the back of my head, you're thinking, oh, well, maybe it'll change because they're kids, and they never do that in front of the child. But no, it didn't matter. I was pregnant, with a child, holding a child, didn't matter, and I just was it was a good motivator, to find my way out. But the fact that they have seen things has been really hard. My youngest will probably not remember anything. He was a baby. My older one is now 4, does still remember and does still talk about things. And the only thing that he says about his dad are negative things. Like, my daddy's mean. He always yells. He's a monster. He's a bad guy. Things like that. And I just try to, what I have been told to do by different therapists and things, is to just kind of acknowledge their feelings and let them talk about it. Don't ever shut them down, which I've seen other people in the past do with their kids, is not let them talk about the other parent and shut it down. And it just really messes with the kid's head bad, from what I've seen. And I just let them talk about it. And I've tried to explain it to him that his daddy's sick. And that's why he does these things. And, and he's like, well, he doesn't really understand sick, he associates sick with just growing up, and things like that. Yeah. And it's like, your daddy has a type of sick that you can't really see. It's in his head, and he's the only person that can fix that. And I don't know if he can. And we are, it's my job to keep us safe. And I'm going to make sure that you never have to see that again, or you never have to hear that again. Like whatever it is that he's expressing at the time.
Yeah.
And I hope that's the right thing to do. Eva, her daughter, at least, is older than me. Probably has good insight there too.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the right thing to do. I mean, what about you, Eva?
That's a tough one, though. It's a tough call, and I think, Kay, you've done a magnificent job by just identifying your children are a part of this. Because a lot of parents do get so wrapped up in what they're feeling. And I was telling Kay earlier with my daughter when she was younger, I didn't realize it because I thought I was protecting her from a lot of things because I was dealing with bipolar. And, they have their ups and downs. And for her, I thought I was protecting her from not crying, not letting her see me upset, and always trying to make her know we're okay. We're always going to be fine. Nothing's going to change. We're good. Well, come to find out later when...
You have more than one child, Eva?
I just have the one. Okay. Just the one. No worries. But then come to find out when I started taking my daughter to counseling, and I'll explain that in a minute, my daughter thought I was kind of a cyborg. And so she saw how her dad was upset about the divorce. He was upset about different things. So guess who she ended up feeling sorry for and kind of identifying? It wasn't me. And it wasn't until she started expressing that. And I realized that by trying to be just so strong, I had actually created my worst weakness with her. But I was explaining to Kay, and she's done the same, which I personally have never regretted, is because bipolar is on one side of my daughter's family and I've got depression on my side. I always knew that she could face depression in her lifetime, but also just dealing with our circumstances. And we had other things going on with family too. So I started finding her a counselor, and it took going to a couple of them because it had to be one she identified with and she was comfortable with. But I wanted her to see that going to counseling to talk about whatever it is she wanted to talk about was just like going to the dentist. So she didn't have to worry about other kids saying, oh my God, are you going here or whatever. She's so comfortable with being mentally healthy and talking to somebody when you have problems that she's an amazing young lady now, very strong, understands herself. And I've never regretted it because that transition gave her an outlet to talk about all the things she had witnessed and all the struggles she was having and how to deal with her father even as she was growing up. Because I got to say,
success story of your daughter.
Oh, she's an amazing kid, but she also had to learn that, as you said, Daddy's sick. And I had to explain it to her in the sense of just like I have to take heart medicine because my heart is kind of sick. Her dad had to take some medicine for his brain because it's kind of sick, but there's medicine that can help it. And as long as he takes it, he's good. And so she got that. And she is so knowledgeable about bipolar now even. So it's just, getting your kids comfortable with who they are and what their circumstances are. And I think your son's he's going to get right through this. I really do.
He is. I do think he is. And I think the key thing too is that he's been away. Like, he hasn't seen his dad at all since all this has happened. It's been over a year and a half. And we have a protective order against him.
Gosh. Okay.
And I truly have intention on renewing it. Like whenever it expires. And I obviously ideally in a perfect, in a normal world, it's best for a child to have both their parents. But his dad is not good. He's not healthy.
He's scared of him.
Horrible role model. He has other children who are now adults or close to adults from a first marriage, and it's not their fault, but they're messed up in the head. And it's a combination of him and their mother, because the mother took the other approach, like we talked about earlier, of not acknowledging their feelings, not allowing them to express it.
That's so sad.
My kids don't really have love for their dad yet, because they don't know him. And they're not even really going to remember him as they get older. But the other children did. And they already, some of the kids, I think one of the girls was 10 or so when they broke up. So like, she already loved her dad. You can't just pretend that she doesn't, that they don't. So the two of them together just, in my opinion, just emotionally destroyed their kids and have both been extremely abusive towards them. And like everything I do with my kids is like from their example. Like, don't be anything like them at all, because they're both just horrible people.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
I was listening to a show today that were talking about how to talk to your kids in general from a psychologist.
One of the things you just said, though, he doesn't want us. Oh, Aaron, you're talking.
That's okay, but you're frozen a little bit.
I could hear that.
Go ahead.
Okay. But one of the things with your son is the fact that he doesn't want to see him, but you're showing your son that a situation where he could feel like he has absolutely no control in his life, which is just so frightening for a child. You're showing him he does. If you don't want to interact with this person who you find threatening, okay, maybe later on in life he'll want to, but it gets to be on his terms.
Right.
And you're letting him process it now. And there's so many couples that I see that will say, well, I don't have the right to keep my child from this parent. Well, if they're an awful person, you do.
Right.
We protect our kids. And so we got to put the child before the one that's abusive.
Exactly. And, the thing for me too is like, he's so conniving and manipulative. And as any sociopath is, they know what to say and when to say it. I've watched it myself firsthand, him how to work his way through the court system before with his first time around. And, with many other things, I've seen it. Like, he could easily try to like, go to court and like, oh, I'm a changed man. Look at me. I've been sober. I'm this, I'm that, and it's like, yeah. And you've been sober 8 times before. I've seen it too. And every time you go back and you relapse, and every time you're worse. So like, what's to say this time is any different? So what am I supposed to do? Let him back in? Not with me, but like let him back in to like, as like a visitation type thing. And then what? Wait for like, let my children get attached to him and then watch them self-destruct in front of them. And then they'll be really affected by it, like.
Well, my ex would try to play that through the court system too, as far as, he had many addictions, but this time it was the Adderall addiction was making him do it. It was all the Adderall addiction, and now it's over and he's fine and he can be perfect and everything can be happy again. But that's only a symptom of the real problem. That's not the actual problem. And for some reason, they think they can get away with that.
Use it as an excuse. Mine had Adderall addiction too. Adderall addiction, street drugs, alcohol.
He's self-medicating.
Get his hands on.
Yep, self-medicating.
I found out after the fact, he was like giving his older son, he was a teenager, drugs.
Wow.
And like making him take it to like stay awake and stuff so he could have somebody else to talk to all weekend, I guess. And I didn't know. I mean, obviously I would have, put a stop to that. I would call the police or something, but I didn't know that. And I found out later when I got a CPS call. I was like, are you kidding me? And the messed up part about it is like, I don't even want to talk about this other woman because she's been through a lot, and I can only imagine. I know what I went through. So I know she's been through a lot, and it's probably why she is the way she is. But she's so the kid's mother, of the first wife, she wouldn't do anything about it, like pressing charges against him for giving her son drugs. I was like, what?
So common though. People don't press charges.
No, but she was like, she pressed charges on him for touching her car, like anything. So it's like, why would she not do that? It's ridiculous. And to find out later, I guess she figured doing something like that would benefit me because it would get him away from my kids legally, I guess. And I didn't do enough to help her kids, so not going to do anything for me.
Wow, that's pretty petty and selfish right there.
Oh, it's awful. And then also saying, oh, well, he was old enough anyway. He's like 16. You're never gonna win because I don't know, just stupid stuff like that. And it was just like, oh my God, like what?
So let me ask you this: she expected you to save her children when she wouldn't?
I guess I don't know. I mean, I guess.
Does that make sense to anybody? No. When somebody expects you to do more for them or their loved ones than they're willing to do?
No.
And we all fall in that trap.
Like she went to, they had a million court dates when we were together. But I guess, I don't know, maybe she was expecting me to say more or do more, but I don't know. She had a crappy lawyer, some guy that's friends with her friend or something. And I don't know. It's just a game, I think, the courts, especially when it comes to stuff like that. Because like him and our lawyer probably too at the time, they see suckers. They see people that are going to be involved in this drama case for years on end, and they just keep it going because they keep filling their pockets. So why not?
Well, and I find what's interesting is that
nothing got accomplished that whole time. Years, literally nothing ever got accomplished. Nothing. No visitation was ever changed. Nothing. It's just
and people in that situation, like she is, just from experience, I found that it's almost like the drama they're attached to. That's kind of they think they're fighting their way through it, and they're not. And so they unknowingly, not necessarily knowingly, but they pull people in, and that's her drama and what she's going through. It's not you. It's not your problem, in the sense of, just like, I hate this analogy, but starving children in other countries, you got to feed your children at home first.
Right.
And then if you can help somebody, great, but you've got your plate full, and your children are all that matters right now, you and your children.
Exactly.
And so it's a shame, but it's easy to get wrapped up in somebody else's stuff. Now, you reminded me of a couple things a few minutes ago that I wanted to point out. One was, do you find it interesting with your ex, how in front of other people, he could be perfectly normal, charming, polite, but with you, quote unquote, couldn't control it?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So he can control it. Yeah, he can control it.
Yeah.
He just chooses not to when he's with you.
I'm like, if you can talk like some stupid thing, on this, I can't even think of a good example, but something I would want him to stand up for, and like wouldn't do it and acted like, oh, I'm a nice guy. And I was like, you can talk to me like that, but you can't talk to this person?
Exactly.
Are you kidding me? Like, what kind of
I'm too nice. I'm too nice. Well, then you made another comment a minute ago when you were talking about going into court and I went through rehab and I'm like a rock star now. I'm going to be the picture of sobriety. I wanted to give you this analogy. If you saw me running, you should never assume I'm an athlete just because I'm running. I'm not. I walk faster than I run, but just because I can give the appearance of being an athlete in front of you, like he can give the appearance of being a rehab rock star, doesn't make it so. It's those actions after there's no audience. What are they doing when there's no audience?
You know what? This totally is unrelated. Well, not unrelated, but just this example came to my head. One time we were at a restaurant and like I had some coupons in my pocket for that restaurant. And I was like, going to use one of them, because I'm all about coupons. And I had a few. And I was like, and I picked the one that we were going to use that was the best, and we used it. And then like on the way out, I even said out loud, hey, I wonder if somebody else in here, on the way out, I'll give these to somebody else. Maybe they'll use them,
Mm-hmm.
So out of nowhere, like she was like, just like grabbed them out of my hand and like made a special, like big hoopla to this couple, like, oh, I've got these coupons. Would you like to use them? And like,
oh my word.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm
distraction. It's like a show of,
and like these people probably think that he's like the most wonderful guy in the world. Oh my God, what a sweet guy.
The performance of it.
Yeah. And goes out in the car and just like berates me the whole way home. And I'm like, wow.
And then wonders why you can't see him as the rock star that everybody else does. Everybody else loves me. Why can't you love me like that? Right. Well, because you're not that person.
I have a great example too of this. I was at a wedding of a friend of mine. I was actually in the wedding. And he was with me as, my date. But like in the weddings, in ceremonies, people will have you like the brides and groomsmen dance together for a dance.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
My ex was not about that. He was like so upset that I had to dance with this guy. And I was like, his wife is sitting right there. Like, it's just a formality. Like, it's whatever,
Right.
And like, it was such a drama scene. Like, I literally had to like leave. I was like part of the wedding, and I had to like walk out several times to like try to soothe him over. And like, it was awful.
Oh, it's exhausting.
My friend went out to try to help him. And at that point, she was just like, that's one of the times that she was like, I'm done with this dude. Like, you're so crazy. Why would you stay with him? And like, so during that same time, that same day, the same wedding, so we're sitting there at the table, and there was this kid at our table, and he was crying, and he didn't want to eat the food, and he was hungry, and he was just so my ex, leaves. Of course, he's taking my car, so he's got nothing, and he probably my money too, I'm sure, but like drives up to McDonald's and gets the kid a Happy Meal and comes back. And the kid is overjoyed, of course he's so happy. And the parents are like, oh my God, this is the nicest thing anyone's ever done. Like, thank you so much, because now we can enjoy this wedding for our family members. This is amazing. And like, this has like been, 10 years ago. And like my friend still, oh my God, he's such a great guy. And like, what an amazing guy. And I'm thinking like, do you realize he almost ruined your entire, like.
Do you see what he did? I don't know if you see this or not. There was the situation of you leaving a couple times, and he was the bad guy, but he turned it around by being this, again, rock star, saving the day with the McDonald's Happy Meal. So anyone that would question if there was ever a problem at the wedding, it was your problem. You were the one acting up because you kept walking outside. He's a great guy.
Yeah. He was just going outside to smoke.
That's a spinmeister.
I was probably insecure, right? Like having to check on him for what he was doing. Well, he's insecure that I'm going to dance with some guy in front of.
No, he was that's manipulation. That was, he was controlling you from the beginning. When you look back now.
Oh yeah. When you look back now, you don't see it.
It's exhausting having to check on people all the time. It's exhausting.
I was telling somebody.
To get back and tell my friend about that. Like when I tell her, so I really haven't told her what's going on because we haven't really been real close in the last years because of And this is she when I tell her what happened, she's gonna be like, oh my God, she's gonna be so surprised. She has no idea.
I was telling someone earlier today about when, I don't know if you remember this, Eva, but right when we were first dating, my ex drove to my rental house and told me not to hire anybody, that he would do all the work. He would paint all the walls and he would repair the deck for me. And I was just blown away. I tried to talk him out of it. I thought, oh, I can hire somebody. Don't worry. I'll hire somebody to go back up there. And then it wasn't long before that started getting thrown in my face. Like, you owe me money for that. You owe me for my time. And I was
there's always a catch.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's always a catch to it. And that's the thing is if you can, I know that with the friend that Erin and I spoke about previously, who her situation was more than I don't know how she got through it, but we did together. But anyway, they always try to hook you somehow, be it that in your case, Erin, he did something very nice for you. Now you owe me. Yes. Or in the case of my other friend, her husband he did a lot of wheeling and dealing, questionable wheeling and dealing. And he would always bring anyone that they knew in just enough for that person to question if they were doing something wrong. So that if he were ever in a situation where he was being questioned, he would look at that person. That person felt like they couldn't say a word because maybe I'm just as guilty. Right. It's that whole getting that hook in you and then you can't leave. So if you always keep yourself in a scenario where they can't hook you. In other words, her husband had tried to do that with me, even as her friend. And I was like, I'm way too of an honest liver for that. I'm going to tell everybody what I'm doing. And if I can't tell them, then I'm not doing it. If something doesn't sound right, it doesn't sound right. And fortunately, he wanted her away from me as soon as that happened. Yeah. Because I saw who he was.
Yeah.
They don't
I had towards the end, I had started trying to like pull other people in so that they would know what was going on. Like all my close friends knew. They didn't know every detail, but they knew like it wasn't good, and my family and whatever. But I totally got sidetracked. Sorry, I had a message come through. Some people that were his friends, that were only his friends and not mine beforehand. You know, we had a lot of mutual friends. I was trying to like have them realize too. So this one guy would come over fairly often to come fishing at our house in the pond, and he would come, and one day like he was up, my ex was up there with him, like sitting in the truck, just like he would usually do, and drink and do whatever and pretend he's fishing. And he just wouldn't answer the phone. And I forget what it was that I needed to know, but he wouldn't answer the phone. And I knew he could hear it just sitting there. So I ended up driving up there, or we were walking up there to find out what was going on, to talk to him. And then he did this, like put like his finger like across his like throat, like he was going to kill me, you know? Like
he had lost his mind.
Like,
oh my word.
Like, how dare you walk up here and embarrass me in front of my friends? And like, you know, and said all kinds of nasty things and went like that. And I was like, what did you say? And I said it like all loud. And I was like, hey. And his friend kind of looked up, and I was like, oh, it's okay. I just wanted to make sure that you could hear too. Like he's telling me he's going to kill me because I walked up here, you know, and just like, you know, called him out.
What did he was like,
oh, like his friend was just like, what? And he was just like, he didn't know what to say. And I was like, look, I'm sorry to involve you in this, and I'm not trying to be immature or whatever, but like the friend here is a psycho, and someone else needs to, I'm no longer going to just let him say these things to me and just to me. So if he's going to say it and you're around, like, I'm going to make sure you hear it too.
I think there does need to be some accountability too with the, you know, all the guy friends out there who you have to see things. I know that his friends don't,
but they don't want to.
Right. They don't want to see it.
Your nagging wife, like that.
Yep. Well, and you've got to remember, they've been laying the groundwork all along. This other friend of mine, Erin, and I had an opportunity to talk with her together. And she also went through where because of a phone situation that I would love to tell you about at some point, she was able to see all these texts coming in from their mutual friends to him, and even from people that had been her lifelong friends that would talk to her about their situation and would turn around and text him. So these people had kind of turned on him. They were believing the story he was telling because he was much more convincing, much more confident in what he said. She had been, her self-esteem was so in the bottom that it made people question her when she wasn't the one that was doing this nonsense. But he looked more sane because he was confident. No, I didn't do that.
She was just taking it all, and he was purposely trying to make sure that she looked bad.
Right. And I'm sure after you left,
figure it out.
Told the fishing friend that you were crazy. I'm guaranteed that happened.
Oh, he did. And I talked to the guy since he's been gone too. And like every single one of our friends has said, like, yeah, I can't believe you put up with him for this long. You know, like nobody's defended him. I can't say that they don't say the same thing to him, but I don't think so for the most part, because even if they didn't know about the abusive part, they knew that he was a mooch and a loser and wouldn't work. And that was mooching off of me. And like, I don't make a lot of money either, but like, they could tell, like, you know, what kind of a man won't work. You know, they're like, he calls me all day long. Like, I'm trying to work. Like, what are you doing? You know, and
I would like to caution one thing for anyone that's listening to this, is that if you have mutual friends or his friends that don't believe you or seem to empathize with you, but yet they're still walking that line, at that point in time, they may not be able to be your friend. And that could be their own issues. It doesn't make them necessarily bad people. They've just fallen for the con. And I say that because we want that support from these people who have been around us all. We want them to believe us and, you know, don't you see this? But they've got their own experiences that they're seeing things through, because we do see things through our past experiences. We hear things through what we've experienced in life. And And it could be very difficult for them to open their eyes to it. So for anyone listening, as hard as this sounds ridiculous, but it's not personal if those people aren't there for you. It's what they're not capable of doing at that point in time. It's nothing you've necessarily done wrong.
Yeah.
And they may not be able to be your support system. So don't take it like it's another jab at you, or it's, oh my God, they don't even believe me. What's wrong with me? Why can't anyone help me? It may not be that.
Gaslighted too,
They're kind.
It's hard for a lot of people who haven't been through it to really know what to say. And we talked about that in a different episode, but I had a lot of people who felt almost intimidated to talk to me after that. Like they felt like they couldn't relate to anything. And I really didn't want to talk about it that much. If you can't relate to me, I don't really want to talk about it with you. But it brought out insecurities in people very quickly when you even broached the topic. So, it is a hard topic for people.
There's also that whole thing too, that if these were people that were friends of yours or friends of both of yours, and they didn't help you or they weren't able to help you, the next time they see you, they probably have some shame themselves and some guilt that, oh my God, this was happening to this person I care about and I did nothing.
Right.
And I feel for those people too. I really do. Because I can't, what a horrible feeling to know that you may have been able to intervene and make life a little easier, but based on your own beliefs at the time, weaknesses falling for their con or whatever it is, you didn't step up. So it makes it harder to face that person that you lay it down.
Yeah, that's a good point.
It is.
Well, that's our show. Thanks for listening. If you have any questions or if you're willing to share your story, please email us at sageadvicepodcast@gmail.com. Until next week, remember, when you're kind to yourself, the healing can begin. See you next time.
This show was brought to you by inflowradio.com, the best curated talk radio network for personal development, wellness, spirituality, and conscious business.
If you or someone you love is in immediate danger, please call the National Domestic Violence Hotline at 1-800-799-SAFE. That's 1-800-799-7233. For more information, please see the resources tab at sage.community.